the richest man in the world. Come on, even Elon Musk, if only we had his money. Musk invented the self-driving car, launched a rocket into space, revived a chip in a human brain. He dreams of colonizing Mars. He was once an icon of liberal America. A light in the window, Elon Musk. Public stunts, controversial comments. His stance strongly influences how people perceive him, even if he takes part in the Mars expedition, which, by the way, will be the most difficult journey in human history. Participating in a Mars mission, and again, that will be the most difficult journey in the history of mankind. It will be marked by his figure as well. He pushed the team very hard, and that partially led to accidents, simply because they couldn't keep up. Hate me, love me, or be indifferent. You want a better car, then you're a supervillain. To everyone I've offended, I just want to say, I reinvented electric cars and I'm sending people to Mars on a rocket ship. Did you really think I was going to be a calm, normal dude? He was a nerd from South Africa, bullied by his classmates. And now he's become one of the most influential people in the US, and on the entire planet. He got rich thanks to his projects, but also due to government grants and loans. Now, support programs are being cut around the world. His company handles over 90% of all space launches. And yet, he smokes weed live on air and dates a punk rock star. That's Elon Musk, an eccentric billionaire who inspires some, frightens others, and definitely doesn't leave anyone indifferent. The richest man in the world, according to Forbes, can casually buy Twitter just to post to whatever he wants. Or with one move, overshadow a presidential inauguration. Musk invented the self-driving car, launched a rocket into space that returns back to Earth, implanted a chip into a human brain. He dreams of colonizing Mars, and most importantly, Elon's fantasies make him a lot of money. In recent years, the flamboyant businessman and inventor has become increasingly involved in politics. And now, no one knows for sure who he is, a superhero or a supervillain. Let's try to figure out who Mr. Musk really is. Elon Musk earned his first $500 at the age of 12, and by 28 he was already a millionaire. At 41, his fortune hit $1 billion, and by 50, it reached $300 billion. At 51, Musk topped the list of the world's richest people for the first time, and by the end of last year, he became the first person in history whose net worth exceeded $400 billion. I'm not just a wizard, I'm a dark wizard. Looking at how quickly Elon Musk became one of the most influential people in the US, it might seem like he could even become president of the United States. But under American law, that's impossible. Even though Elon has American roots, he wasn't born in the US but in South Africa. Many people think my name must come from some exotic place. But I was named after my great-grandfather, who was from St. Paul. He was something like a school principal and an unofficial sheriff back in 1900. So even though I'm from Africa, I was named after my American ancestor. Elon Musk remains an important role model for ambitious people in the US, and he's definitely a role model for immigrants who dream of coming to America and achieving something. For immigrants, his image is especially bright and inspiring. Of course, Musk lost some of his shine when part of the liberal public turned away from him. But just as quickly as they distanced themselves, that could change again in the future. Elon was born in 1971 to engineer Elon Musk and model May Musk. He has a younger brother and sister. Some sources claim that Elon's father owned an emerald mine. Others say he smuggled gemstones. According to Musk himself, both are false. He never owned an emerald mine. That's total nonsense. In 2021, Elon revealed that he has Asperger's syndrome, a condition on the autism spectrum, where people often struggle with social interaction and communication, but may have enhanced cognitive and verbal abilities. Musk recalled that even as a child, he noticed his perception of the world was different from his peers. Although, there's a theory that Elon made this up and doesn't actually have the condition. His social life was much quieter than that of other kids. He was a typical nerd. I thought I was crazy. Why did you think you were crazy? Because it was clear that other people were different. Their minds weren't exploding with ideas. In school, Elon was known as a know-it-all and a real bore. His classmates didn't like him for it. He was often bullied and even beaten. After one attack, young Elon ended up in the hospital. His father scolded him for it, called him weak, and said it was his fault for not standing up for himself. Getting beaten up was pretty normal. If you did well in school, they'd wait for you at the exit and hit you with their backpacks. If you called that bullying, well, we had a lot of that. Alan's father wasn't just harsh with the kids, he was also violent with his wife. Errol regularly beat her. You know, in South Africa there's a saying, when you get divorced, you stop falling in the shower. Because every time someone saw your bruises, you'd say you slipped in the shower. When Elon was 10, his parents divorced. They took the children and moved from Pretoria to another South African city, Durban. But soon, Elon decided to return to live with his father. Yes, his father had a difficult character, but he let Elon tinker with cars. And in his house, there was a full collection of the British Encyclopedia. Books were young Elon's greatest passion. He read a lot of science fiction, reading all night until he noticed his mother waking up, then he'd go to sleep. Then of course, I had to dress him while he was half asleep and drive him to school. Elon begged his father for a computer, learned to program, and at 12 created his first product. A space-themed video game called Blastar. Yes, extraterrestrial worlds fascinated Elon from an early age. That first invention already had commercial success. The game Blastar was bought by PC Magazine for $500. By the way, the game still exists, anyone can play it online today. Musk didn't blow the money on girls at the bowling alley or booze with friends. He invested in his future projects. After finishing school, he sold them and used the money to move to Canada. Sounds like a story about the son of your mom's friend. He flew away and I thought, wow, he's so independent. Of course, as soon as he landed, he called and asked, what should I do now? In Canada, Musk enrolled in college and earned degrees in economics and physics. Then he moved to California and got into Stanford, but didn't even study there for a full day. Elon dropped out of school to start his own business. Together with his brother, they founded a company called Zip2. Like typical 90s startup founders, the young men started out in a shabby basement office that doubled as their apartment. We found out that renting an office was actually cheaper than renting an apartment in Silicon Valley. So we rented this tiny office with a leaking roof. It was the most disgusting place you could imagine. And we lived there. We showered there. It was 1995. Even advanced users were just beginning to discover the internet. Google was still a year away from being created. The main source of business information in America was still the Yellow Pages. At that time, Elon essentially created a prototype of online maps, but only for companies. Zip2 offered clients the ability to place information about their business on maps on the internet. They managed to get clients like the New York Times, Hearst, Knight Ridder, and several other companies. In 1999, the brothers sold the company for $307 million. Elon personally received $22 million from the deal. In his excitement, he bought his first supercar, a McLaren F1. It's the fastest car in the world. With the rest of the money, Musk founded a new company, X.com. No, not the X of today, but what would become PayPal. The company got its current name after Elon merged with competitors Max Levchin and Peter Thiel. The goal of the new company was to create something with a deep impact. I think the financial sector hadn't seen much investment on the internet before. PayPal turned out to be innovative, not only technologically, but also in marketing. They came up with features that now seem ordinary to us. At first, the company gave a $1 bonus to all new users. Then they allowed users to embed a PayPal widget on their eBay pages, so people could make payments directly through PayPal. Today, that doesn't surprise anyone, but in 1999, there weren't many options for online payments. PayPal solved that problem. There was another trick. The company deliberately didn't check if the payment recipient had a PayPal account, so sellers had to register with the system to receive the money. At first, PayPal had 12,000 users. By August of the same year, it was almost 3 million. The only thing that hindered success was a conflict inside the startup. Musk insisted the company should switch from Unix to Microsoft. This caused protests from programmers and PayPal co-founders. Eventually, when Elon went on his first vacation, the board of directors fired him, bringing Peter Thiel back as CEO. I wasn't well suited to managing a company of that size. and it didn't particularly interest me. Managing a company with over 600 employees. So I decided to stay on as a director but look for something else to do. PayPal was so successful that eBay soon bought it for $1.5 billion. Musk received $180 million. As he joked, that money would be enough to buy an island and not worrying about anything else. Instead, he decided to develop 3 areas at once: solar energy, electric cars, and the space industry. Oh, I had about $180 million from PayPal. I allocated half of that to SpaceX, Tesla, and SolarCity. That should be good. I'd have $90 million left. As if that's a lot. By the way, Tesla was not founded by Musk, but by engineers Martin Eberhard and Mark Tarpenning. But who remembers that now, right? Elon joined the team only a year after the company was created. He became a major investor, chairman of the board, and the main inspirer. At the first stage, he invested $6.5 million in the company. Tesla decided to start with an electric sports car, the Roadster, and then move on to more mass-market models. In the 2004 business plan, $25 million was allocated for developing the model. But it's like remodeling a house, you never know how much it will cost. In the end, it took 5.5 times more. Many things cost more and took more time than I thought. So I had a choice: either invest the remaining money or the company would fail. In 2008, Tesla finally unveiled the first Roadster model. The sports car's battery lasted for 384 kilometers. By many measures, the electric car was on par with sports cars with internal combustion engines. But it was very expensive. The price started at $100,000. Only very wealthy people could afford the Roadster. So among the first owners were mostly celebrities: Arnold Schwarzenegger, Leonardo DiCaprio, and George Clooney. Or maybe they were gifted them. Elon Musk discovered influencer marketing long ago. The release of the Roadster coincided with one of the most difficult periods in Tesla's history. First, there was a split within the company that ended with the removal of one of the founders, Martin Eberhard, from leadership positions. Martin even sued Musk. But eventually, the parties managed to reach an agreement. I think we really raised the bar beyond what Eberhard could handle. And that became damn clear in 2007. Second, Tesla was experiencing very serious financial problems. The global financial crisis of 2008 hit the automotive industry hard overall. Even a giant like General Motors was on the verge of bankruptcy. Let alone niche, ultra-expensive sports cars. At that time, Musk practically lived at work, trying to save the company. He was on the verge of a nervous breakdown. We had enough money in the bank for about a week's work, or even less. There were only 2 or 3 working days left in the year to solve these problems. It was truly awful. He invested his own money in Tesla and SpaceX. He was under incredible stress. I worried he might have a heart attack. I was always available to help solve problems. Call me even at 3 a.m. on a Sunday. I don't care. The cherry on top was the December 2008 review of the Tesla sports car by Jeremy Clarkson and colleagues, who simply tore the Roadster apart. Look at this. Although Tesla says it will travel to 100 miles, we found that on our track the car's battery died after just 55 miles. Musk was furious, claiming the video was staged and even tried to sue the broadcasters to prevent them from repeating the segment. But he failed. In fact, by then Musk had bigger problems. Tesla was on the verge of bankruptcy. To save it, Musk put nearly all his personal funds into the company. In 2010, he managed to convince Barack Obama's administration to grant Tesla a $465 million government loan for the production of the Model S sedan. How did it happen that the government simply gave money to a private company in the middle of a global crisis? It seems Musk was just lucky that the new presidential administration focused on environmental programs. $800 million was allocated for green energy development. Tesla's project, with the charismatic Elon, fit perfectly into this program. Interestingly, in the next election, Obama's opponent criticized him for that loan to Musk. But this year, Trump rolled back almost all environmental projects initiated by the Democrats. Back to 2010, Tesla held its initial public offering IPO. This was a very important moment. It became the first American car company to go public since Ford Motor in 1956. The IPO raised $226 million. In 2012, the Model S rolled off the assembly line and became the first electric car to win Motor Trend's Car of the Year award. But the press remained skeptical. The New York Times published an article claiming the car's battery died right during a test drive. There was a sad photo of the car owner on a flatbed, as if that was the only possible outcome of such a trip. That's just not true. Later, the editorial board admitted the article was not quite accurate. Meanwhile, Tesla began building free charging stations for its electric cars across the country. You could travel from Los Angeles to New York just using Tesla's charging network. And the system was free, not just now, but forever. That's Tesla's commitment. In 2014, the company's engineers and programmers began developing the autopilot system. We didn't teach it what cars, people, or cyclists are. It learned by itself just by watching videos. However, the autopilot did not learn as well as hoped. It's linked to the company's biggest problems. In 2016, there was the first fatal accident involving a Tesla electric car. A Model S collided with the trailer of a semi-truck that did not notice it. A year later in the UK, the same model fatally hit a cyclist. In total, at least 17 people have died in accidents involving Tesla's self-driving mode. In the UK, autopilot mode is still unavailable for Tesla owners. Probably the most anticipated and meme-worthy Tesla vehicle is the Cybertruck. Here it is, the futuristic pickup, jokingly called the Lego tractor or Minecraft truck. Musk first announced his desire to release such a pickup in 2018. A year later, it was unveiled to the public. But the futuristic car demonstration didn't go as planned. Elon said the Cybertruck's glass was strong and unbreakable. But it shattered right during the presentation. Are you sure? Of course. Oh my god. Well, maybe that was a bit too hard. Lego Company immediately posted a meme on Twitter about the unbreakable car. Mass production of the Cybertruck only started last year. But by April, Tesla recalled nearly 4,000 vehicles due to pedal defects. The model is still on sale, but it continues to receive strong criticism. Some dislike the angular design, others complain about corrosion of supposedly stainless steel. Another reason for jokes and criticism, the Cybertruck frequently gets stuck in snow. It's important to emphasize that nothing will ever be perfect. Autopilot will never be perfect. I mean, nothing in the world is perfect. But I really believe that in the future, this technology could reduce accidents tenfold. Despite all financial problems, the company is doing quite well. In 2013, Tesla managed to pay off its government loan 9 years ahead of schedule. In 2017, it released its best-selling Model 3, and 15 years after its founding, it finally started making a profit. By 2021, Tesla's market capitalization exceeded $1 trillion. Also, Musk made Tesla's patents open in 2014. Any competitor can use their technology now. Tesla is no longer seen as something unusual, especially in the US. Model 3 is the most popular car there. Despite all the hatred from the so-called green lobby, Musk and Tesla continue to make progress. In battery production, rare earth metals are used sparingly, among other things. The normalization of electric cars is probably one of Musk's most important achievements, because it's a fundamental breakthrough. We see more and more car companies wanting to move in that direction or prepare for a full transition within the next decade. So Musk's impact on humanity will be very significant. But making an electric car is something many can do. Launching it into space, only Elon. Space, as I said before, has fascinated Elon since childhood. One of his idols, astronaut Neil Armstrong, despite criticizing SpaceX, inspired him. I was interested in when we would go to Mars. I went to NASA's website, and there was no plan for Mars flights. There wasn't even a plan for the next step in space exploration. Colonizing Mars isn't just a billionaire's crazy fantasy. Elon has his reasons for desperately needing to get to Mars. Unfortunately, our planet is not immortal. As the sun expands, Earth will become less and less habitable. Therefore, humanity needs to find and prepare other habitats for life. I think a reasonable step is to make life multiplanetary while it's still possible. A civilization that respects itself won't be single planet. When Elon realized NASA wasn't going to Mars anytime soon, he took matters into his own hands and founded SpaceX. Initially, Musk planned to buy old Russian rockets and modernize them. He flew to Moscow twice for negotiations. I can tell you, it was very strange to come to the Russian rocket forces and say, I want to buy your the biggest rockets. They thought I was crazy, but I had the money. The plan turned out too expensive, so Musk decided SpaceX would build its own rockets. Soon, the company was producing 70% of all components for its rockets. This led to approximately a fourfold cost reduction compared to other American rockets. But the rockets didn't launch successfully at first. The first 3 attempts failed. Then came the crisis year 2008. Musk was trying to save Tesla but also had to decide. Would SpaceX keep trying to conquer space? He said, I have enough money for 3 attempts. He invested $100 million of his own money. And he hinted that if nothing worked after 3 attempts, SpaceX would die. In the end, Musk managed to scrape together money and parts for a 4th launch, and it was successful. In 2008, Falcon 1 became the first commercial rocket to reach Earth's orbit. That same year, SpaceX signed a $1.5 billion contract with NASA. Musk's company committed to build the Dragon spacecraft to deliver astronauts to the ISS and the Falcon 9 rocket. One detail, they had to figure out how to return the first stage of the rocket to Earth for reuse. No one had succeeded before Elon. However, SpaceX didn't get it right the first time either. Musk repeatedly tried to bring the rocket's lower stage back to Earth. Finally, in 2015, a historic event happened. Falcon 9 was launched from Florida to deliver 11 commercial satellites to orbit, and its first stage returned safely. That's the first stage to come back down. Guys, we're making history. For future generations, the concept of a rocket flying and then just falling into the ocean will seem very strange. Now, we talk about partially reusable rockets, where only the boosters return. In the future, rockets will be fully reusable, with both first and second stages reused. The next milestone SpaceX achieved was the Crew Dragon with people on board. The historic flight took place on May 30, 2020. For the first time, a private spacecraft delivered astronauts to the International Space Station. For 9 years before that, only Russian Soyuz spacecraft had delivered astronauts to the ISS. Crew Dragon is a new era in American spaceflight. This launch impressed not only Americans. The grandson of the legendary Soviet engineer Sergei Korolev, Andrei, also watched the flight broadcast with admiration. He later wanted to personally congratulate Musk on this achievement. Although NASA friends said it was impossible, Musk doesn't respond to letters and generally is hard to contact. Andrei wrote a congratulatory message, and Musk unexpectedly invited Korolev and his son on a tour of SpaceX in California. It's a huge open space, a giant hangar. In one area, they clean and prepare reusable engines for the next flight. No sterility, they stand in a large room. And we say, wait, don't you need sterility to build engines? They say, no, not in our case. Because our engines fly to space, land in mud and dust, and then are launched again. They have to withstand external influences. Then we looked at an absolutely glass sterile container where the reusable ship is prepared for the next flight. A hall inside a hall, a glass cube inside a giant hangar. There is absolute sterility. People wear white gloves and suits like in an operating room. We were a bit amazed by the scale. For example, at the same time, there were about 3 by 6, approximately 18 engines being assembled simultaneously. Then we went to Elon Musk's office and spent about an hour drinking tea and talking with him. He is a very pleasant person to communicate with, no snobbery or arrogance. You know, a very wealthy man, the richest man on the planet, a very busy man. He is deeply involved in the technical aspects of space exploration. He clearly knows what he wants, how it works, why these engines start this way or that way, and what needs to be done. We saw a man who knows the history of cosmonautics very well. He perfectly knew the names Tsiolkovsky, Sander, Korolev, and all our cosmonauts, with dates. Guests from Moscow arrived, guests from the family he respects very much, the Korolev family, but there was no pomposity or security, only his assistant Shun was there. From the conversation, it felt like he was simply a very smart person. That same year, Elon announced plans to send 1 million people to Mars by 2050. In 2022, SpaceX made its first tourist flight. Of the 6 people on board Crew Dragon, only 2 were professional astronauts. Each tourist paid $55 million for the trip. Today, SpaceX's main business is delivering cargo to low Earth orbit. For this, the company is developing the world's largest and most powerful rocket, Starship. Its first launch happened on April 20, 2023. Starship is planned to be used in the future for flights to the Moon and Mars. The first stage of Starship was supposed to separate 3 minutes after launch, but that didn't happen. The rocket soon exploded at an altitude of 29 kilometers. Last year, Starship finally made its first suborbital flight. And on the 5th attempt, SpaceX managed to land the booster on the launch pad. Nevertheless, testing continues, and not all attempts are successful. Just 3 days before the inauguration of Elon's new friend, Donald Trump, Starship exploded in midair. That was the 7th test flight. Look at this, everyone watch. Nevertheless, Musk and his rockets have already made history in space exploration. He basically reinvented spaceflight, and he did it more efficiently than any government program. SpaceX is not just the leader in launch services. For context, they launch 86% of the total payload mass worldwide among all countries, agencies, and companies. That is, one company accounts for 86%, and all others combined make up 14%. The second achievement, again related to space, is not yet obvious, but it will play a very big role in the coming years. This is, of course, satellite internet connectivity. Imagine having signal everywhere, in the mountains, in the forest, wherever you go. It will no longer depend on cell towers. You'll just need to hold your phone slightly above your head, and you'll connect to a satellite. Starlink is actually a huge achievement. You could say it's the normalization of satellite internet connectivity. Apple already has support, though through another company, for emergency communication. But Musk's plan is for every phone in the country to have the ability to connect to a satellite in case of an emergency. Fast internet on intercontinental flights will also become the norm. So in the future, excuses like "I can't talk, I'm on a plane" will disappear. By the way, in mastering space, Musk faced not only the laws of physics, but also the laws of American states. For example, once SpaceX was required to get a fishing license, because officials feared that rocket debris might fall into the water and hit sharks. They told me, according to the rules, I needed some kind of fishing license. We need a fishing license to launch a rocket. I was like, wait a second, what does fish have to do with this at all? And before a launch at the Undenberg launch site, authorities started worrying that the noise from the rockets might scare seals. They made us capture a seal, attach it to a board, put headphones on it, and play sounds to check if it would get upset. That really happened. I have photos. Besides Tesla and SpaceX, Musk has a smaller company. For example, Neuralink, which develops brain chips. With their help, people are supposed to control computers with their thoughts. In 2021, the company demonstrated a macaque monkey that played a video game using the chip, and in 2024, Musk announced that Neuralink successfully revived a brain chip in a human. It is expected that in the future, these devices will help ease the lives of people with paralysis and dementia.